Good evening. Hope that we are well. Hope that we're well. Back with another Always Better Than Yesterday interview session. Just going to send a couple of invites. Sorry about my lighting. It's a little bit dark. If you are catching up on the podcast, then the darkness won't be visible to you, and I apologise for wasting your time with that one. But hey, thank you for joining. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to come and join another Always Better Than Yesterday interview session. Send a couple of invites out, make sure we've got some awesome people in the conversation, and then I will get on with my next guest. Okay, so internet connection. Right, we'll do our best with what we have, and what I don't have at the moment is great lighting, but hey, we will roll with it. We shall roll with it. Always Better Than Yesterday interview sessions. They are all about understanding the habits and the mindset of successful and inspiring people. This is episode 41, so that means I've interviewed 14 inspiring and successful people over the last year, and I've loved it. Loved asking some questions to help me learn from other people. What I genuinely believe that what separates the good from the great is the way that people think. I think it's their mindset. I think the way that people think will inform the way that people act, and I think the way that then people show up will inform the results that they get. And I've loved learning from 40 people, and episode 41 tonight is with Kiki Stanton. I can see that Kiki is on. Kiki and I have connected. Do you know what? It's one of those things. I've said this to a number of people that have joined me. She's been another one of those people that have really stood out. When you're really clear on your own purpose and your values and kind of who are the right people for you, then those people just come to light, and you seem to warm to their content and their stories. And Kiki is absolutely definitely one of those people. So I'm really looking forward to bringing her on. She's a life and business coach, and she's, like as I've said in the comments here, very much a heart-centered approach into what she does. So her and I are absolutely the same wavelength, and I'm going to love asking her some questions to help you get to understand that a little bit better. So please do ask any questions you have as you go along. And if and when it adds you some value, please do share it. Hello.
Hello. I'm just going to share this also while we are speaking. So
There we go.
here we go. How are you? Can
I'm
you hear
very
me
well.
all fine?
Yes, my headphones weren't plugged in properly. They are now, so I can hear you. Good to see you. How are you? Your lighting is much better than mine, I must say.
Probably only just because I'm in my kitchen. That's probably the only reason why.
Amazing. Do us the honour and the privilege of introducing your good self.
Well, so I am Kiki, and I'm a life and business coach. But you'll notice I've probably said I'm Kiki and I'm not Kiki Stanton because my surname is new. I got married last year and a half. But my business name is obviously Kiki Kirby, and I'm obviously known out in the world as Kiki Kirby. So often I forget that I have a new name. So especially now that I'm kind of back in the community world, and I go to these functions and I see Kiki Stanton, and I'm like, who's that? Oh, it's me. So I am still getting used to my name. So I'm Kiki, and it's really great to be on here. Thank you for having me on here.
Amazing. So share us a little bit of your story. Tell us a little bit of your background and what brings you to kind of where you are today.
Yeah, so where do I begin? So I'm Greek, and I'm from Zimbabwe, and I've been living in the UK for about the last 18 years. And when I came to England, I came with a friend. Didn't really know what the future held. And back in the day, that's what people did, was from Zimbabwe, is people would come to England for the work opportunities. So I did that, and I ended up in recruitment, actually with somebody else who's also just joined, Hannah. Hello, Hannah, who I think you know also. And so got into the world of work, fell into recruitment as most of us do. We fall into a career that we do, and we either make a success of it or we make changes. And I guess I embraced the opportunities that were given to me, and had an amazing career, earning very well, was a top performer, was a high achiever, and loved and embraced that. And always, I suppose, had aspects of coaching and mentoring in that job that I had. I helped people get jobs. And I loved everything I did about it. I loved the success. I loved the money. And at the time I worked in Bath, and then I also did a bit of work in Cheltenham, and then I worked in Swindon. That was the last part of my career there. And I guess everything was going really, really well. So on the external, everything looked great, but probably on the internal side, I was so tired. I was emotionally drained. And I suppose I only realized that probably 2 years after that had really happened. And I guess that's when I then had a burnout, which was pretty significant. Actually, it then meant I was off ill for 6 months on and off. And I just bought a house in Cirencester at the time because I'd been financially secure. So what was going to change? And anyway, then had this burnout. And in those days, mental health wasn't, so this is about 6.5 years ago, mental health isn't where it is right now. So you can imagine people, you know, talking about depression and not wanting to be alive, and, you know, just lots of different things was so different to how it was now. And I won't go into all of that detail because I'm sure some of it will come through, but I really knew that I wanted something different. But because financially, that was all I knew, I didn't know what to do. And so I woke up one day and I said, I'm just going to leave that career and that job, having bought this house, which wasn't cheap because I'd been financially secure for so long. So what was going to change? And I remember everybody around me not really thinking or necessarily supporting me to know that I was going to make it work. But I knew that by leaving that career with nothing to go to, that so many other things were gonna come from that. And so I left that job with nothing to go to. So I had this mortgage, nothing to go to, but I just knew in my heart of hearts that I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how. And I guess that took me probably about 8 months to find out what I really wanted to do. And that's then when I embarked on the coaching journey. Now, I didn't sit still for 8 months. I did some temporary work, and I started doing some marketing for a wealth management company, and I just got into that space of trying to find my way. So that's where the coaching journey started for me. And I always knew I wanted to have my own business. And, you know, I'm really proud when I look back now of, I started my business with no money. And I've built my business from the ground up. And I guess it's not been easy because, as I'm sure, I think I saw you had shared, I've also been on a cancer journey too, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So that's just a little bit. I've gone on and on and on, but I'll hand over back to you now.
Yeah, that's an amazing introduction. And, you know, I think the thing that's standing out to me is, you know, headstrong. And even though those around you might not have been sharing the same kind of beliefs that you did, and, you know, where would you say that's come from? What really helped you? Would you say you're headstrong?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it probably comes from a few places. So my mum died when we were quite young. She had cancer when I was very young. And I guess I came from quite a strict upbringing. So I love my dad dearly, and I'm sure he's going to probably be listening in a minute. So I need to make sure I say lots of things with love. And he actually lives with my husband and I. I love my dad to bits, and he's been a mother and a father, but he was very strict in our upbringing and very safe and very secure. And I guess when I look back at some of the things from my younger days, I'd already had that entrepreneurial spirit. So as an entrepreneur, you want to be free, you don't want to be tied down. So I guess that's where that came from. And I remember my dad didn't really ever want me to move to England. So I think upbringing had a really big part of it. Wanting to be who I am, and not what other people want me to be, or what my family want me to be, or what I guess our society wants us to be. So that's probably where it begins. And then I guess all I've done is I've just harnessed it and treated it and developed it.
It's interesting that I use the word headstrong, isn't it? Even though I introduced you as someone that's heart-centered, you know, how much has the heart played in your growth?
So in the very beginning, not as much as it does now. But interestingly, I was thinking about this a few days ago because I've been making lots of changes recently, and it really made me think is even as I was young, starting in my career, I remember I worked for two young guys or before I started working for them, sorry, I worked for a guy in the accountancy space.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had a promotion there, and to be honest, it didn't feel right. And so I gave the job up with nothing to go to again. And I guess in those days I was heart-centered, because I thought, do you know what, like, this isn't feeling right, so I'm gonna do what's right for me. But then I got into the world of corporate life when I came to England, and that doesn't really harness that enough, does it? Well, certainly in the experience I had, it was very corporate, it was very rule based, it was very performance driven. And so I guess I lost that way. Up until then, I gave that all up, and obviously then start to harness and unleash that heart-centered stuff inside of me, because you forget that you've got that heart-centered inside of you, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you help a lot of people where you are right now, but kind of what helped yourself on your journey? What sort of things have helped you?
I think having faith every single day. So as you know, God's spirituality is very, very important for me. Hasn't always been, but definitely in the last 6 years has been. Being a better version of myself every single day, getting out in nature, changing something if it's not working and if it's not making you happy. That has been a biggie for me. Finding gratitude every single day, finding joy every single day, which is some stuff we'll talk about, I'm sure, when we get to my cancer journey. And developing myself every single day, even in the times of growth. And I'll probably be honest, probably in the last 6 weeks, I've probably had so much growth. And so it's stretching, but you know what you do? You embrace it, and you focus on it, and you just keep getting back up and being a better version of yourself. So that's what I think has really helped me.
For those that are watching and listening, and how do you know you're growing? How do you what kind of makes you know that you're progressing, learning, growing?
There's challenges. It doesn't feel comfortable. It feels hard. It's new. Some of the emotions that maybe aren't comfortable. So probably some of those sorts of things. And knowing that I need to step up to another level. I need to say no way more than I normally would say no, which is something I've had to learn so much more over the last 6 years, even more so now. So those types of things, I think, depends on the season that I'm in, if I'm honest.
Yeah. What else has helped you in your journey?
Mindset has been a biggie. So knowing and recognizing that self-talk. So do you know what? Self-talk's not great. And what I mean by that is, do you know what? Am I able to do what I've set out to do? My self-confidence. So how am I feeling with certain things? Am I feeling confident, or do I need to really dig deep inside within me? Getting a coach. So at any point in time, I'm having coaching or mentoring, depending on where I'm at. Being around the right types of people, the right people that are going to lift you up and not drag you down, or criticize everything that you're doing, or not support you and cheerlead you along the way. Those I think are kind of the really key things. Being wise, that's been a biggie. That's one of my words this year, actually, is being wise, because I think the longer you have your business, or the more challenges you're going to face, you've got to be wise, because maybe what you did last time might not work moving forward. So you've got to get really resourceful. And self-awareness and emotional intelligence and perseverance, and taking every step as it comes. And also looking at, every step counts. I'll say this to many of my clients: every step counts. The ones you take and the ones you don't take.
Absolutely.
Because you never know what the reason is why you didn't take that step, or why you needed to take that step.
So self-awareness is a key theme that comes out with a lot of these interview sessions. And I just wonder, you obviously help a lot of people. Where do you start? If someone's watching and listening right now and they're inspired to become more self-aware, where do you normally point people to start?
I would say, firstly, just get real with where you are right now. That's the first step. And I think even if your mess is a mess, because often we can feel like a mess externally and internally, is just get real with where you are. So if you are in a mess, do you know what? I'm in a mess and it's really bad and I feel really bad. And that's the first step, is acknowledging that. And And then that almost gives you the wings or the platform to then take the next step of, okay, do you know what? This is what it is. This is really what's going on. But how do I want it to be? And sometimes we don't really know how we want it to be. Sometimes we do. Sometimes deep down we do. But I'd say that that's the really key thing that I do with my clients is let's get real with where we are right now.
I like that, because I think if we take ownership for our lives, and we can then focus on what we can do to change and improve and influence, I guess. And yeah, I like that. So let's touch on your recent journey that you've been on then with your cancer. Tell us a little bit about the story and some of the things that you learned about yourself during that time, I imagine.
So I guess the first things first is you never think it's going to happen to you. And I was actually doing some journaling earlier, and it made me think, I don't think there's one person in this world that hasn't been affected by somebody they know who's had cancer, or that they've lost somebody to cancer. I think every single one of us have. So I was just journaling about that, and it really occurred to me. So I guess first things first, I was 3 generations to have had cancer. So my dad's mum passed away from cancer, all different cancers. And then my mum, and then I had cancer. So I didn't know I had cancer. I had a cough, went to the doctor, and then realized there was some fluid on my lungs, and then was diagnosed, and then literally started chemotherapy not long after that. So I had stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it was a real whirlwind at the time, because I hadn't long, my husband now, who actually I went to school with in Zimbabwe, very bizarre, very, I never thought it would happen this way. He had not long proposed. So we were getting married in September. So it was such a whirlwind of knowing that I'd been diagnosed with cancer. I was getting married in September. My business also had been going, I think, about 3 or 4 years at that stage. And so I was at the growth spurt. I was literally at that 3rd level of growth. So you're like, do you know what? All this work is amazing. And then I've got cancer. And I'm like, oh. So do you know what? I just embraced every step as it came. It was a shock. And I think it's interesting when you are diagnosed with cancer, the first thing you do is your intuition and every part of you is to just fight. So that's what I did. And it was very quick. I literally started chemo pretty quickly, like within a day, and then my hair started to fall out, and then I lost my hair in my first round of chemo. And so I just had to embrace every step as it came, because there's so many things that come up through the cancer journey. And then I found joy every single day. And that I say that quite lightly like that, but that came out of a bit of a struggle, because I remember I had a dear coaching friend saying, what am I going to do? Like, I had this vision of everything I was working towards, all these goals. And I'm a goal orientated, well, I was a goal, and I still am, but obviously I do goals in a very different way, is I've got this vision, now what? And she said, well, let's just change it around a little bit. And what about if you just found the joy every day? And why don't you create a blog to find joy every day? And so that was a little adventure for me to then find the joy every single day in the cancer journey. And to be honest, I probably only worked through some of the cancer stuff after my cancer journey, because when you're in it, and when I say after, I've only just had a year, I'm in a year of being in remission, but that still brings its own challenges. You know, I've got to have a scan on my liver in a couple of weeks. There's some stuff's come up in my bloods. I'm sure it's fine, but after my treatment was when everything hit me. So probably around this sort of time last year, where I was like, okay, so I'm not Kiki anymore of who I was pre-cancer. I'm married. I've had cancer. I'm not the same person on the inside and the out, because I fought death in different, in different ways. And that was another journey of, I had to, again, just get really real with myself and just work through those emotions. And that probably took me about 3 or 4 months to work through. So many things in there. And actually, I'm going to start blogging again soon about the cancer journey, and so many other things in there, because there's so many light bulb moments that you get, but when you're in it, you can't really necessarily focus on it. So
what were some of the most powerful?
Sorry, say that, or did you say the most harmful?
Powerful.
Yeah, powerful. Yes, definitely.
So obviously finding the joy in every day, is that something that's become a habit and you're able to do that easily now, or easier?
Definitely. And that quite quickly became very easy. Even, some of it was finding joy that I could shower, or that I had flowers being delivered and looked at the flowers, and eating food, and was able to sleep, and just some of the really basic things. So it was easy, but back in the world of work and back in the world of running my business, I can very easily forget those days.
Yeah. I think we can all be guilty of overlooking the small stuff, and it sounds so easy, doesn't it, just to appreciate the fact that you can have a hot coffee in the morning. But being someone that has that perspective and has made finding joy a habit, what actual difference does it make to your day?
Huge. I feel inner peace most days. I'd probably say 98% of the time I have inner peace. Appreciating the small little things that I was not aware of before, that you just notice. I like to describe it as, if you go on a walk and you might see a bird in the tree, or an owl in the tree. If the owl sits in the tree, they do sit in the tree. And maybe you haven't necessarily seen it because it's got beautiful feathers, but just being really present and you notice it. Yeah. That sort of thing. Or having some really deep conversations with people that you maybe wouldn't have necessarily had a really deep conversation with. Yeah. And some of those really basic things, and changing things if they don't work, being brave enough to change them if they're not working.
Do you have a favourite question to ask people?
I think probably at the moment, one of the questions I really love asking people is what results are you wanting to create? Because often we are just rushing around in life, especially with a lot of the clients I see at the moment, is lots of rushing around, not maybe necessarily deep down connected with, do you know what is it that I really want to create right now? What are the results I really do want? And it's only when you stop to really think about that. And if I'm honest, again, probably 90% of the clients I ask that, they're like, actually, and they have to really, really think about that. It's even got me thinking on lots of different things too. Yeah. And another favorite one is, what are you going to do to slow down to achieve more? That's a biggie.
It's a very relevant one.
Very.
I'm going to have to write that one down and consider my answer to that question.
Yes.
Can you say it again?
So what are you willing to do to slow down? What are you willing to do to slow down to achieve more?
I like that.
Because I don't know if you find this doing, again, some of the work that you do, and I know you've had an incredible career, and I've been watching you for a little while too, because your wife had told me all about you, and then I looked you up on LinkedIn, and I saw we shared lots of different values and passions and everything, is so many people at the moment seem to think that if you do more, you achieve more. And there is some truth in that. But also, if you slow down and only do a few things at a time, you can achieve so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. Because busy isn't always productive.
No. And I have got the certificate, I've got the medal for being a workaholic, for being busy, for doing too much. Not so long ago, I chose to launch like 4 or 5 things now, recently. And I've had to really take a step back and be like, okay, what is it I'm really doing here? What's important? What do I want to do?
You've said the phrase a couple of times now, being brave enough to change it if it's not working. What helps discover that courage or take action?
To just do it. So more often than not, you know what you need to do. So if I use my situation with knowing that I needed to leave that career, I knew 2 years before that I needed to make a change there. But it took me getting ill and having a burnout to then make that change. So I think the first step is just make the decision to do it. I think the second thing is get help with somebody who can help hand hold you along that process. Write it down just so that you can process it in your mind. Speak to people that really trust, that you trust. just be aware of what you want, because maybe what you want today might not necessarily be what you want tomorrow, and that's okay. You know, we live once, we only live once. And I think the other thing is the other person has always got it worse than you. And I think sometimes we think our situations are so bad compared to others, but the other person's always got it worse than you. Which I know is not nice to say it like that, but it's true. So do you know what? Just be brave and just do it, because you're going to regret it. You're going to procrastinate over it all, and then not take the action and be like, I really wish I'd done it. And actually, do you know what? I made myself a drink. It's an Earl Grey. I enjoy an Earl Grey. And I was just looking. So on this mug, and this was a gift ages ago, it says, wish it, dream it, do it. And I think so often we spend time dreaming about it, but we don't really believe it. And then often we believe it, but we don't really match and take the action. And then it's only when we start to achieve it, we're like, actually, do you know what? This is exactly what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Christine, my good friend from America, says, what's the difference between bravery and courage?
Oh, good question. So I think they've got both a lot of similarities. So what's the difference between them? I think brave is just to do it. And the courage maybe takes a little longer to build up within you. And I think perhaps maybe sometimes it depends how you define it. So there's sometimes that Christine, thank you for your question. Sometimes I think it's just about acknowledging where you. So is it that today I need to be brave and share about my cancer journey, or is it that I had to be courageous previously in other conversations and share that? I had to be courageous to be vulnerable and open. But you know what? Maybe that's one for me to. I'm smiling so big. I'm going to go and do a little bit of thinking on that, because you've got me there, which is that was a great question. Really, really good question.
I've been thinking about what I would say to answer that question. I think for me, bravery is the kind of in the face of fear, just still doing it anyway. And I think maybe courage is just showing up as ourselves.
That's a good way. That's a very good way of
I've been listening to a lot of Brené Brown recently, and she talks
I was
a
just
lot.
thinking about it as you were talking about that. Yeah, she's amazing.
I would always defer to Brené. She's the queen of courage and vulnerability. So amazing. So you obviously help a lot of people. I guess it's a given. Do you love what you do?
I love what I do. Yeah, I do.
So someone comes to you and just describe some of the ways in which you help people.
Yeah, so I always meet the client wherever they are, and I take the client individually, like as them as a person, because I think, especially in the nature of the industry that we're both in the personal development and in the coaching spaces, there's a lot of programs that are set for every person. But I think because I've done HR and I've done recruitment and talent management and all of that, is every client is individual. Everybody's experiences are completely different. So all of my relationships and my programs are, although there's certain themes in the programs, they're all bespoke. So I meet the client wherever they are, and we put together a plan of what's important to them. So I typically work with clients up to 3 months at a time at the moment. And we put together and we work through a plan of what's important to them. A lot of the stuff I work through is anything from emotional, mindset, heart-centered things, career changes, growing their businesses, making big career changes, working through some significant life challenges of grief, maybe, divorce, debt, even grief of losing a job or a high-profile job or whatever that is. Lots of clarity, lots of vision, and we get really creative. So, and I don't mean like drawing creative, but we get really creative with the mindset of how we make a plan to move forward. A lot of challenging beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, getting people to be brave, bold, and I guess again giving them wings to then go and do what they've been called to do. So a lot of purpose things. So a lot of things around often we're looking for inspiration in other people, but we've got the inspiration in ourselves. So I guess I enhance that within the client. We look at everything internally inside of our hearts, and then externally, and matching that together. And just a very private space for that particular client.
I love that. Where can people connect with you? Where can people find your content?
So first things first, head to my website, which is kikikobecoaching.com. The second thing is, I would say check me out online, but I am on a social media break at the moment. So I've done something very special and come on for this especially.
Well, thank you.
So
very grateful.
So I am very active when I am, and I'm not quite sure when I'm going to go back to social media, because I had a week off and I've been enjoying it. I think this is my third week off. I've been loving it so much. I'm not quite sure I'm going to and I'm going to be using it very differently, because I love social media and I love people, but I'm enjoying this so much. So LinkedIn, if it's for business stuff, Instagram, you'll see a little bit of everything of me on there, and then Facebook. So please do connect with me on there. But obviously, I'm not there right this minute, but I will be back soon.
If you're slow, yeah, absolutely. Well, let me just say thank you then. Thank you for taking the time out of your little break. It is you're sharing your personal time with us, so I'm very, very, very grateful.
Thank you.
I'm also grateful for the stories that you shared this evening as well, and your personal stories. And yeah, I find your journey and the stuff that you share inspiring, and I know that there'll be one or two people that are just needed to hear what you've said tonight. So if you're listening, you're watching, or catching up on the podcast, please do share this with that one person that comes to mind that you think needs to hear from Kiki. And my last question really is, my ethos is about being always better than yesterday. I'd just be curious to know, what that phrase "always better than yesterday" means to you, and some of the ways that you're always better than yesterday.
So I think don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up if yesterday wasn't a great day, because do you know what? You have a new chance at life today. And to be grateful for everything wherever you're at right now, even if it is bad, and to move through your struggle. Don't avoid your struggle. Move through your struggle, because it's what you do in that struggle that makes a difference. Read. So if you read, listen to podcasts, your podcast, other people's podcasts, surround yourself
with
people
that are available.
Surround yourself with people who love you. But I think the key thing is you've got to love yourself inside out. You've got to love your health. You've got to love your mind. You've got to love your body. You've got to love everything. So I think those are, and slow down. Don't know what you're trying to rush around life for. Just slow down. Less is more.
Love that. So Christine has come back, and I think she has invited you to join her on her radio station. So Christine hosts a radio slot on a Tuesday.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I think the reach is nearly 100,000 people in over 100 countries. So
wow.
I'm sure she will connect with you. That's a huge opportunity. So that's always good fun. I'm glad that I've connected you two in the world.
Thank you. And also, I just want to say thank you to you, because I recall, speaking to your wife on Facebook about lots of different business stuff, and she'd shared that you were a coach, and so I looked you up on LinkedIn and connected through you there, and we followed each other for several, for a good year and a half now, and I think that's the other thing is be cheerleaders of those around you too, even if you don't know them, because you just don't know what's going to come. And you don't know who you're going to meet along your journey. You don't know who you're going to collaborate with. And I often say this to people, is you don't know who you're going to meet on the way up or on the way down in your career.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
You're most welcome. I genuinely believe that we rise by lifting others, and
Definitely.
I've used this platform as selfishly as I possibly can to help me connect with awesome people, but there's no way that I'm going to keep all that to myself. So in doing so, I'm sharing it with the wider world. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us. And my very last thing is to say, please leave us with a final thought from your good self.
I'd encourage you to go away and write down 20 dreams that are important to you right now. And then I would encourage you then to take 3 steps to make some of those dreams happen, because you only live once, and life's too short. And the last thing, I know you said only one, but
No,
I'll give
keep
you
going.
two.
Yeah, I like
The
this.
last thing is really, really focus on your health, because and health, I don't just mean health on its own. I mean like everything, what you eat,
Body,
what you
mind, spirit.
do, everything, because it's only when things are affected in our health, more often than not, that's when we start to take action. So if you are in a stressful situation, make changes. If you are not happy, make changes, because you only live once. So that's it.
You are an inspiration. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
joining me, and I hope
Thank
you
you.
have a
Bye
wonderful
bye,
week, guys,
everybody.
girls. If you're
Thank
watching
you.
and listening, please do push the button, push our faces, give Kiki a follow, and please do share it. Share it with that one person you think needs to hear it and see it. Other than that, have a great week, everybody. Much love, and I
Thank you.
appreciate you all.
Thank you. Bye bye.